now, and let's see if I manage the 5 minutes in my German timekeeping. So that's, as Søren said, this is our title, and this is by myself and my colleague Mirek. And basically, this is our reflections about like our experience of higher education, where we have worn different hats, going through the PhD journey, working as research coordinators, teacher, administrator, yada yada, like loads of different things, and trying to make sense of it. And in order to keep to those 5 minutes, I'm only going to touch a bit of the historic background, what the category error, one of them of the impact assessment in our estimation, and the distinction between the public good, and in the context of research impact, and then discussing those potential implications. So the one of the things I've been fascinated by, or we've been fascinated by, is this quote by Voltaire: "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities." And whilst it's like Voltaire's rhetoric flair and stuff, there is actually like a theoretical underpinning for that. And one of the things that we found was the theoretical concept of a guy called Randall Collins, where he talks about interaction ritual chains, of where he makes a radical microsociology of violence, and saying like how body behavior and speech acts, they are mitigating. So here now, like, seeing conflict resolution as a spectrum of where you have speech on the one end and then violence on the other, and then it's a continuum that has a slider on that scale. So if we then go to research impact, research impact, this is an example from the UK. It's defined as a change or a benefit to the economy, the usual things. But it's always put into these positive terms. And by the subject of it being society, being an interference in society, there are definitely political implications here. And not everybody has to think the same about these applications, because we know from history there have been negative causalities, like where research done harm, or like unintended consequence, or whatever you're going to say it. And so the question then is, well, what are we going to do with that? If research impact is this measurement tool of it's a meritocratic thing. Well, what do we do then if it turns negative? Should we punish researchers for that? And if we now come to this distinction between the greater and public good, basically what the way that we're using it here is that the greater good is like a top-down rhetorical category that is used by despots, tyrants, or whatever like label you want to attach to that, in order to cajole the social group for whatever particular purpose. Meanwhile, the public good is a bottom-up process. Coming back to those interaction ritual chains of where the group finds alignment and consensus. And I'm not going to go through all of these different, of how that manifests itself, but suffice to say that the only tangible difference of where it becomes clear of what individual, which aligns itself, is in the actual research process. If it is an open-ended inquiry, or if it is geared towards the political or social ambitions. Well, the reason why I mention that is because, our good friend Heidegger, I'm not going to read the whole quote here, but he says in his address to the Freiburg University, "There is no need to first awaken this following. It will so elevate it of its own vocation." And, given the historic context of that quote, with Nazi Germany and what comes afterwards, that seems eerie. But the thing about that is the exact type of rationalization that is happening now of how higher bodies of education are approaching impact. They are aware of all of these political implications. They're aware of all of these, like things that they have to do in order to get the resources from the state. But it is rationalized away as it's to further our own education, own vocation here. And really what we're trying to tease out here is like, how does this relate to these concepts of scientific truth and academic freedom? And how does this relate to that particular impact focus? Because the postulation here is that an emphasis on research allows for the open thinking space, because in that research space, that those political, like categories of this is good, this is bad, this is evil, yada yada, all of these things, they are not consolidated yet by the very definition of it being research. So if that research framing is taken away, then also that thinking space is taken away. So the analogy here being with that incentivizing that is done through the research impact agenda and that evaluation structure, it is basically a societal wide Milgram experiment where everything is pressuring the academics to, do have more impact. Yes, go on. That's fine. That's wonderful. And it's so difficult for the individual academic to actually put up resistance because the entire system that they're operating within is geared towards that. And here is basically the paper is to just have an attempt to think through, is that a problem? And how can that be a potential problem? So that's the quick version. It's obviously a lot more complex than that, but I think I stop here and I wait for questions at the end if there's any.